ערב טוב, חודש טוב, חנוכה שמח to everyone. Before I start, I had a function to attend tonight, and I decided not to attend in order to give the class. So I sent my better half there, behind here. But the reason is, first of all, I believe the Torah comes first. And therefore, when I have a chance of teaching or learning, nothing more important than that. But more than that, I would say, since we are celebrating Hanukkah, the idea of Hanukkah was that the Yevanim, the Syrian Greeks, wanted to erase the name of Jewish people in a spiritual sense of not having Torah anymore, not having all that tradition. So I think it makes even more sense to be here tonight, studying, learning Torah as a way of showing that we were victorious, and here we are, Am Yisrael Chai v'Kayam, thousands of years later in Vancouver, still around the table studying and learning Torah. So that is why it was an obvious choice for me to be here tonight. And I'll add on and say that when we had Rabbi after back and forth, 6 months of discussing when he's going to come with his busy schedule, finally he told me, I'm going to come, but if you want me to come for Shabbat, well, it has to be that I'm going to leave Wednesday evening after I give my shiur. I have a shiur that I give every Wednesday evening and I can't miss it. And therefore that's what he did. He left after the shiur immediately to the airport and was here by Thursday, and Thursday night he was already up and going. But the fact is, it was inspirational for me as well, that even though he had this commitment of coming all the way from Israel, from Tel Aviv to Vancouver, Torah comes first. I'm going to give my class, and then after my shiur, I'm going to go to the airport. I can't miss it. It's important for us to remember that Torah is it. Right? I have a t-shirt that says, usually in Israel, you know, you have Coca-Cola, you know, they would think I have enjoyed Torah. This is it. This is what we are here for. This is the most important thing. So with that in mind, I'd like to start to give just a quick summary of the Parashat Vayigash, a fascinating parasha, where Yehuda, after Yosef says that, they don't know he's Yosef, that Binyamin, who he accuses of taking the goblet, the silver goblet, is going to stay in the palace in Mitzrayim. Yehuda walks forth to Yosef and tries different ways of either pleading with Yosef. Rashi even says that he was even ready to fight in order to stand up for Binyamin, to release Binyamin. It's a fascinating parasha. It's very poetic as well. We see that Yehuda is really using all types of words of plea with Yosef, till finally Yosef reveals himself and he says, Ani Yosef, I am Yosef. By the way, this is the peak of the whole story, where Chazal teach us, Oy lanu miyom hadin, oy lanu miyom hatochecha. They learn from that when Yosef reveals himself and he says, Ani Yosef, the brothers are taken aback after so many years. Here is Yosef, he's alive, they don't know what to say, and they are dumbfounded. And Chazal learned from that, woe to us from the Yom Adin, from the day of judgment, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to say to each one of us, Ani Hashem, I am God, and we will be there, knowing what to say. But the fact is, this is like the, in the whole story, this is one of the most important points where Yosef reveals himself. And then after that, Yaakov hears about it, and he comes down to Mitzrayim to meet his son Yosef. which is, by the way, interestingly, before we go into what I want to speak about tonight, speaking about Torah, what Yosef does, he sends wagons to Yaakov, his father, and Yaakov, through that, understands that Yosef is alive, through the wagon. Why? Rashi says clearly, because as Yosef was separating himself from his father, was the last time that he saw his father, they were learning. They were learning what they were learning about. They were learning about the Egla Arufa. There's a place in the Torah where there's a body that is found between two cities, and we don't know from which city who killed this person. So these two cities come together, and they have to bring, in a sense, a korban or an animal that they have to slaughter. And say, our hands didn't spill this blood. And this is what Yosef learned just before he left Yaakov. So when they said that Yosef is alive, in a sense Yaakov thought maybe physically he's alive, but spiritually, who knows? But when he sees the wagons, he understands Yosef Chai, Yosef is alive. In a spiritual sense, even though Yosef was in Mitzrayim for so many years, he still kept his Jewish identity, which was remarkable. So, what I'd like to speak about tonight is, the topic of the class is what's in a name. And we'll speak about Yaakov Avinu, our third patriarch, where it says that Yaakov, his name is changed from Yaakov to Israel. Okay? But the name Yaakov remains in use. Sometimes he is called Yaakov, and other times he is called Israel. There's a few questions about it. First question is, you look at your sheet of paper, other divinely ordained name changes of the patriarchal era are permanent. For example, Avraham and Sarah. Avraham originally is called Avram, and Hashem adds the letter Hey to his name. Sarah was called Sarai originally, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu changed her name from Sarai to Sarah. What about Yaakov? We see that Yaakov is called Israel, but we still call him Yaakov. What is the difference between Avraham, Sarah, and Yaakov? Under what conditions will the Torah refer to the last patriarch as Yaakov, and under what conditions as Israel? Is there, or could we find something in the Torah that will teach us that? Will give us a hint that sometimes it's called Israel in certain circumstances and Yaakov under other circumstances. And also, can the name variation add to our understanding of certain biblical passages? And we'll look into that, into this week's parasha. So there are a few approaches. The first approach is of this Forno, who was a rabbi from Italy, from I believe the 15th century. And this Forno says the following. He suggests that Yaakov's full transformation to Israel will happen at the end of the days. And I'll quote what this Forno says. This Forno says it is in Parashat Vayigash-What, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God says to Yaakov, Vayomer lo Elokim shimcha Yaakov, lo yikare shimcha od Yaakov. God says to Yaakov, your name is Yaakov, lo yikare shimcha od Yaakov, your name will not be Yaakov anymore. Ki im Israel, it's going to be Israel. Yeshemecha vayikra et shemo Israel, and he calls them Israel. Okay. By the way, this is not the first time. Before that, there was an angel, and the angel also calls Yaakov Avinu. He calls them Israel after Yaakov has this encounter where he wrestles with this angel through the homeland. So this Forno says the following, and I quote, ויקרא את שמו ישראל, he called him Israel, בירך אותו שיתחיל קצת עניין שם ישראל מעכשיו, שיוכל נגד המתקוממים עליו. This Forno says that he gave him a blessing, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in order for him to be able to be victorious over his enemies, but he started it from that point. In other words, the real energy of the word of the name Israel will come later on. So according to this forno, the idea of Israel is the one who is going to be victorious. Whenever we use the word, the name Israel, means victory. So Yaakov got the name Israel in order to be able to be protected or to defend himself when enemies come to attack. However, this forno says that the name will get to its fullest לעתיד לבוא, in the days to come, in the Messianic times. In the Messianic times, it seems that this forno, and I'm adding a little bit an idea to this forno, in the Messianic times we will need this energy, this full energy of the name Israel, because at that time there will be many times and points where we'll have to defend ourselves. And in a sense we see it already today. We are in the Messianic era, and we have the state of Israel. We are called Israel, and we have to defend ourselves. And we have this name, it's getting to its fullest, it's not full yet. It's going to get there at the Messianic times, but as we are approaching the Messianic times, with that comes the idea, the strength of the name Israel. This is what this forno says.
The last word in the Bible is Israel.
Right. The Enekol Israel as well. Very good. So the Torah concludes by the name Israel, because this will be the conclusion of this era starting the Messianic times. This is what this forno says.
So what it says in the Torah, your name will be Israel, but no more Yaakov.
Oh, so if you look carefully at what it says, the pasuk says, and that's very important to note. It says like this: "Vayomer lo Elokim shimcha Yaakov." It tells him your name is Yaakov, which means that your name will stay Yaakov. Because he could have told them, "Vayomer lo Elokim lo yikareh shimcha od Yaakov ki im Israel." Your name will not be Yaakov, but rather it's going to be Israel. It does not say that. It says shimcha Yaakov. Your name is Yaakov. In addition to this name Yaakov, there's another name that I'm going to call you. Okay. Which is what?
Yeah, I understand that. But why they say no more Israel?
Oh, so it seems according to what this forno says, why no more? Because there's going to be a time that there's not going to be Yaakov anymore. Which time? Mashiach. Okay. This is one approach. The Chizkuni, a French rabbi from the 13th century, said the following. He suggests that the total uprooting of the name Yaakov would have given credence to Esav's accusation against his brother that he has deceived them twice. To counter that, God leaves the name in place even after the introduction of the name Israel. As we know, Esav, what did Esav do? He says when Yaakov takes the Bechorah, he takes the right of the firstborn. What does Esav say? Actually, because of his name. What is his name? His name is Yaakov. He deceived me how many times? Twice. Before that, as we know, Yaakov takes the Adashim, they have this transaction that takes place where he takes he gives them the lentil soup and he buys the Bechorah in a sense. He acquires the right of firstborn, and then later on he deceives them again. And because of that, Yaakov seems to be a name that represents, symbolizes lying, someone who's lying, someone who's deceitful. And because of that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want in any way for Yaakov to feel that way. And that is why he keeps his name Yaakov, and in addition he adds the name Israel. Okay? Yeah.
He didn't receive his brother. He sold his
he sold the Bechorah. Yes.
From his own goodwill. What's the problem? He said, and then he said that Esau just didn't care about it.
Oh.
So what is the problem?
But some Mefarshim look at it that way. They say the following. They say that Esau really, it was a mekach ta'ut. Mekach Ta'ud means that Esav really didn't understand the importance of the Bechorah, the right of the firstborn. And if he would really understand it, he would never sell it.
It's not Yaakov problem.
Okay, but the fact is, some say that it was a Mekach Ta'ud because Esav should have found out about it, or maybe Yaakov should have told him about it. And because of that, some feel that still there was a little bit of deceit in what happened. And that is why, in order for Yaakov not to feel that way in any way, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to him, your name will be Israel, but Yaakov as well. Why? Because you shouldn't feel in any way that you were deceitful towards your brother Esav. And this is what this formula says. He says, Shne Shemot yהיו לך, you'll have two names, Yaakov וישראל, שאם אעקור מכל וכל את שם יעקב שמך, if I'm going to uproot your name Yaakov, יאמרו, they will say, כי בשביל עקבה נקרא שמך יעקב, כדכתיב, הכי קרא שמו יעקב ויחווני זה פעמיים. Then people will think that you're really deceitful, because I uprooted your name, so they'll think that God really agrees with who? With Esav. And they'll think that Yaakov is a Ramai, is someone who is there, who took whatever he took from his brother. Because of that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want to take any chances, and he keeps his name Yaakov, and therefore he says, "V'yikrehu shemcha pe'amim kach u'pe'amim kach." Sometimes you will be called Yaakov, sometimes you will be called Israel. אבל באברהם אבינו, it's different. It says, שמך אברהם, לא יקרא עוד שמך אברהם, אלא אברהם. It says by Avraham Avinu that your name will not be Avraham anymore, and that is why the Gemara in Brachot, the Chizkuni quotes the Gemara in Brachot, that someone who calls Avraham Avram, over be'aseh. There is actually a transgression to call someone Avraham, to call him Avram. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu says your name will not be Avram anymore, which means that he uprooted completely the name of Avram and he made it into Avraham, which is different by Yaakov. He did not uproot it, he left it there, and sometimes it's Yaakov, sometimes it is Israel, depending on these circumstances, as we're going to see a little bit later.
Just as he get up. It says, ויצב יעקב, ויצב ויעקב,
Okay.
מעלה ואלוהים במקום.
Right.
וכתוב ויצב יעקב.
Fine. You're right. So we'll see.
Just immediately.
You're right. So we'll see when is he called Yaakov, when is he called Israel. There's a interesting.
But the immediate, the twist shifting so immediately.
Fine. You're right. You're right. So we'll see. We'll see. Yeah.
So kind of to how we change the name of Hashem depending on which attribute
Yes.
he's showing.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. It's the same way with Hashem also. We have you have Elohim, which is Midat Adin, the attribute of justice. You have Hashem Yud Kevavke, which is the attribute of mercy, depending on the circumstances. 100%.
God himself told Rebecca, his mother, the young will rule.
Fine.
But
You're right, but the fact is,
decision.
but people will not see that. If you would uproot completely the name Yaakov, people will say he's a Ramai.
I think he didn't change really his name. He added.
He added, exactly. He added another name to his name. He didn't change his name.
It's
Fine.
like when someone is having a sick.
Right, so you add a name.
You add a name, but his name stays the same.
100%. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we could say didn't change his name, but rather he added a name to his name. Fine, very good. Yes.
Sorry, could it be that as opposed to Abraham, Yaakov had more baggage, more like he was carrying more rocks in his knapsack?
Okay, very good. We'll elaborate that. So he was carrying more baggage than Abraham or than Sarah.
So Abraham was able to completely become he who Hashem named him,
Okay.
whereas Yaakov still had things to clear.
Okay.
It's not-
Very good. Okay, we'll look into that. Very good. So that's why his name was not changed. There wasn't a change, but an addition of a name. Okay, interesting point. Now the Or HaChaim HaKadosh also has his take on it, and he suggests that by the earlier name changes of Avram to Avraham and Sarai to Sarah, it was not really name changes, but enhancements since only one letter was changed. It wasn't really a change that took place. Avram becomes Avraham. So there's a letter Hey. Sarai, there's a letter Hey because instead of the letter U. Fine. Names mystically reflect the souls of their owners, as we'll see. I'll quote what the Or HaChaim says. By the case of Abraham and Sarah, their name changes mark a spiritual growth. By the case of Yaakov, a total name transformation would have meant the rejection of Yaakov's spiritual growth until that point. And because of that, there is an additional name, but Yaakov also has certain spiritual energy that connects Yaakov to his name. And because of that, his name is not changed, but rather there's another name that is added, contrary to Abraham and Sarah, which have, their name is almost the same, but since they have a spiritual growth, because of this spiritual growth, they need a name, a little, not enhancement, but change in their name. Okay? But no, spiritual growth, in their case, I guess, getting closer to God. Getting closer to God, bar mitzvah in a sense, or of getting more connected. Yeah. Yeah?
It seems like Abraham and Sarai and Yaakov in the end is the ultimate of all of them. Because you have, in Israel, you have all the imahot.
Yes.
You have the avot.
Yes.
And so it's like including everyone.
In Israel.
Yeah.
Very good. Everything is included in Israel.
That's it, the end of
That's
the...
That's the shlemut, the completion of everything. Very good. Okay. So let me quote you what the Or HaChaim says. The Or HaChaim says, Rabbi Chaim ben Attar, 15th century Morocco, says, Lo yikare shimcha ki im Israel. It says, Tarich Ladat, he asks a question, Ma nishtana Yaakov me Avraham? Why is Yaakov different than Avraham Avinu? Ki hakore Avraham Avram, if someone calls Avraham Avram, over be'aseh, there is a violation. He's doing, it's not allowed to call Avraham Avram. If someone does that, it is a prohibition. Aval HaKoreh Israel Yaakov and over. However, if someone called Israel Yaakov, there's no prohibition to call Israel Yaakov. So, what's the difference between Avraham and Yaakov? ולמה לא נלמד ממה דאדרי יעקב, הגם שאמר בו כי לא יקרא מאדרי כמו כן באברהם. He says, what's the difference? By Avraham it says, your name will not be Avram but Avraham. By Yaakov it says also, לא יקרא שמך עוד יעקב כי אם ישראל. One, there's a prohibition. By Avraham there's a prohibition to call him that way. You can't call him Avram. By Yaakov, by Israel, you can call him Yaakov and there's no issue. What's the difference between them? And he says, ואולי כבצד ששינה השם דברו הטוב, האמור ביעקב מהאמור באברהם, ומה שאמר שמך יעקב, כי לא היה צריך לומר כן, מה חידש בזה באומרו שמך יעקב. So he says, the fact is, we see a difference in the psukim, in the verses. By Yaakov, it says Shimcha Yaakov, as we said before. Your name is Yaakov, and your name will not be Yaakov anymore, which means that your name will stay Yaakov, but it will not be. It's a contradiction in a sense. Your name is Yaakov, but your name will not be Yaakov anymore. What does it mean? It means that you will have your name. Your name Yaakov will still stay. אלא ודאי שמתכוון לומר שם קבוע הוא לך, אלא שצריך לדעת, טעמו של הקדוש ברוך הוא, למה באברהם הקפיד על אברהם ועל יעקב לא הקפיד. So he says, fine. So we still have to understand why by Avraham Avinu he was makpid. HaKadosh Baruch Hu really said, warned Avraham that your name is not Avram anymore and your name will change, and by Yaakov it didn't. ויראה כי יש טעם נכון, he says there's a good reason for it. והוא למה שקדם לנו, כי שמות בני האדם הם שמות נפשותם. As we said, the names represent the soul of a person. And therefore, והנה יעקב יהיה שם נפש שהייתה לו. יעקב was the soul, the name of the soul of יעקב אבינו. ולזה הגם שנתוסף ברוח. So he says, there's another spirit that was added to Yaakov. And what was the spirit? The spirit was called Israel, the new name. לא מפני זה אבד הראשון. And he says, it's not because of that that you could say that the first name is lost, Yaakov is lost. No way. והרי ישנם לראשון גם שני, והכל יהיו לקרא יעקב. You could call them by the first or second name, ואין ראוי שיעקר שמו הראשון לחלוטין. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu said that the first name should not be uprooted completely. מה שאין כן אברהם, כי גם אחר שינוי שמו לעילוי לא נעקר שם הראשון, כי יש בכלל אברהם. He says even by Abraham Avinu, really it's not, the name Avram is there, because the letters of Avram are still there. There's a hey that was added. ולזה יצא האל לקרות לו בתמידות אברהם, ואין הכרה לראשון, כי בכלל אברהם. He says, and therefore, Kadosh Baruch Hu decided to call him Abraham, but in Abraham there's the letters of Avram as well. ואולי כרמז הרמז הכתוב בדברי הימים, אברהם הוא אברהם. וכפי זה אומרו לו יקרא שמך עוד, פירוש לבד, אלא גם ישראל. So he says, basically, we could understand it from the pasuk, where the pasuk says, לא יקרא עוד שמך כי אם ישראל. It says that your name will be Yaakov, and to add to it, there will be Israel as well. And therefore, that's the way the Or HaChaim understands it. Now, there's another interpretation, which you won't find in the Mefarshim, in the commentators.
Actually, Abraham,
Yes.
it's not changed. And Sarai did not change. It's just that they put the name of God.
That is what that's what the Or HaChaim basically is saying. Since there was really no change there, the names stayed more or less the same. Okay. Now, another way of understanding it is that the names Yaakov and Israel are used interchangeably to distinguish between the different emotions and experiences of our third patriarch. And this is where we're going to bring this Parashat HaShavua into place. We'll see how in one paragraph the name Yaakov and Israel are used. Okay? So, Yaakov symbolizes struggle and challenge, and Israel symbolizes triumph and victory. Whenever you find the name Israel, victory, happiness, joy. Whenever you find the name Yaakov, challenge.
אני חושב שעם ישראל is still יעקב. And maybe, בלי נדר בעזרת השם, we נהיה ישראל.
Okay, so very good.
Read it. ישר אל. And it's just like,
Very good.
that's Yud Ekev, like from the Akevayim of
Okay.
Hashem, we are today. And with God's will, we will become Israel.
Be'ezrat Hashem. Very good. So we're still Yaakov. Okay, we'll look into that. Fine. Excellent. So let's look into the Psukim. You can open your Chumashim on page 256, and it's Perek Memhe, chapter 45. We'll start with Pasuk Chafhe, verse 25. So it says in the Pasuk that this is after Yosef reveals himself. It says in the Pasuk, Vaya'alu miMitzrayim, they came, the brothers are coming up from Mitzrayim, Aliyah into Eretz Israel, Vayavo Eretz Canaan, they came into the land of Canaan, El Yaakov Aviyet, Yaakov their father. And they're about to reveal to him the good news that Yosef is still alive. Vayagidu lo lemor, and they said to him, Od Yosef Chai, Yosef is still alive. V'chihu Moshe bechol Eretz Mitzrayim, and he is the one who's ruling over all the land of Mitzrayim, of Egypt. Vayafo libo, but his heart, the heart of Yaakov, rejected it. Ki lo ha'emin lahem, because for he could not believe them. Okay? Vaydaberu elav et kol divrei Yosef. They said to him, the brothers, all the words that Yosef told them to say. Asher diber alehem, that he told them. Vayar et ha'adalot, and he saw the wagons. Asher shalach Yosef, that Yosef sent. Laset oto, to take him. Vatehi ruach Yaakov haviem, and the spirit of Yaakov was alive. Okay? We see the name, which name? Yaakov. Okay. Vatechi, but it says Vatechi ruach Yaakov. Rashi explains here and he says that the Shekhinah, the divine presence, came back, resided in Yaakov. Till that point, Yaakov didn't have the Shekhinah, the divine presence. Why? Because of Yosef. from the time that Yosef disappeared, Yaakov did not have the Shekhinah. So he's called Yaakov because it's a challenging time for Yaakov, all these years, all these times. But then, just after that, next pasuk, Vayomer, which name? Israel. When Yaakov already now is getting the divine presence, the Shekhinah, he's not Yaakov anymore, he's Israel. He's in a level of nevuah, of prophecy. Rav od Yosef ben Yechai, so he says, how great my Yosef is still alive. Elecha ve'erenu beterem amut. I'm going to go and I'm going to see him before he dies. And then Vayisa Israel b'chol hashelo Israel. So it's the idea of happiness. Israel is happy. I'm going to see my son. So Israel is traveling b'chol hashelo with all that he had. Vayavo be'er Shava, and they go to Be'er Shava. Vayizbach zevachim le'elokei aviv Yitzchak, and he slaughters sacrifices to the God of his father Yitzchak. Vayomer Elokim le'Yisrael. Then Hashem reveals himself to Israel, and by the way, let's look carefully. Which name of Hashem? Elokim, Midat Hadin, the attribute of justice. There's justice that is coming upon Yaakov. And he says to Israel, B'mar'ot halayla, at the, it was nighttime, at the night visions. And what does he tell them? The pasuk starts with which name? Israel. And then he says, Vayomer, Yaakov, Yaakov, Vayomer Hineni. In the same pasuk we find Israel and we find Yaakov. Wow. By the way, it says Yaakov, Yaakov. Why twice? Rashi says, Lashon Hiba, out of love. He calls him twice out of love. He really has a lot of respect for Yaakov, so he calls him twice. But he calls him, it starts with Israel, and then he goes to Yaakov. Why? Why is it that way? So let's think for a second. Yaakov, Israel, has a revelation. They revealed to him that Yosef is still alive, so he's happy. He has no worries anymore. Then Hashem reveals himself. He has a vision of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him, don't be Israel. Nothing. Don't think that everything will be smooth from that point and on. Your name is Yaakov. Challenges, tribulations will come upon you. Okay? And therefore, he says to him Yaakov, and then let's continue. Vayomer Anochi Hakei Elokei Avicha. He tells him, I am your God, the God of your father. Al tira me'edah Mitzrayim. Don't fear to go down to Mitzrayim. By the way, do we find any fear in Yaakov as he's about to go down to Mitzrayim? In the Psukim? Not at all. He's actually very happy to go down to Mitzrayim. Why? He's going to see his son. And his son is the viceroy. He's second in command in Mitzrayim. Yaakov must be very proud. He's not Yaakov anymore, he's Israel. Kadosh Baruch Hu tells him, Yaakov, you're going to down to Mitzrayim. Don't be fear. Why? Because he tells them, you think that everything will go smoothly and everything will be okay? It's not. Therefore, I'm just reminding you that I will protect you. I'll be there with you. Even at the time that you will be Yaakov. The idea of being challenged, of having tribulations, of protecting yourself against your enemies, anti-Semitism, whatever it is, I will be there at the time that your name will be Yaakov. And it continues on. Because even though you'll go down to Mitzrayim and you'll be enslaved, as we know, you'll be a great nation. I'm going to go down with you, Mitzrayim, I'll come back with you. And Yosef is going to be the one who will place his hand on your eyes. Then, after Yaakov, he stands up. How is he called? He's called Yaakov. Yaakov. He realizes, I can't be Israel. Sometimes I'll be Israel, sometimes I will be Yaakov. But after this revelation that he has, ויסעו בני ישראל את יעקב אביהם, again it's יעקב, ואת אפם ואת השם, they take their father, their children, women, בעגלות, the wagons אשר שלח פרעה, and so on and so forth. Okay? And then they quit מקניהם את רכושם של דרך זקנה, ויבואו מצרים, and they come down to מצרים, יעקב וכל זרעו איתו. יעקב again. בניו, his children, and so on and so forth. And then, ואלה שמות בני ישראל הבאים מצרים, we have Israel again. So it goes back, go back between Yaakov and Israel.
But maybe
Yeah.
it doesn't show that Yaakov, it shows that Yaakov is happy to see his son.
That's true.
But he's not, maybe he is worried, and only Hashem can see that he's going to Eretz Mitzrayim and stay there, and therefore Hashem knows that, so he said, don't worry, I'll be with you, and I'll come with you, and all that.
Right, but the fact is, Hashem is revealing himself, telling Yaakov not to be 100% confident that everything will be 100%. It's not going to be. There's going to be challenges and tribulations on the way.
The sons are
Okay.
already Israel.
Okay, right,
In a way.
in a way. Roger.
In another line, did all the Jews abandon the Eretz Israel?
At that time,
No.
yes, everyone went down.
Why?
7 years of famine.
Famine.
But Hashem promised that land to Abraham.
That's true, he promised Abraham, but he told them that your descendants will go down the earth to a foreign land, va'avadum ve'inu otam, and they will be enslaved and Bamel Shana for 400 years. So they had to go down to a land, not necessarily the land of Egypt, it says a land, and the Egyptians chose to be the ones who are going to oppress the Jewish people for 210 years.
No Jews.
What is it?
There were no Jews in the land.
Exactly. There were no Jews. Yes.
All right.
Yes. Yeah.
Just wonder, God revealed to Abraham everything.
Yes.
Did he told his son Isaac about it? And Isaac maybe could tell to Yaakov about all that?
I believe so. I think there was definitely a transmission of knowledge between Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov.
And Yaakov knew that he's going to be there for 200 years.
I'm not sure about all the if he knew everything, but definitely he knew that he's going to go down.
It's very interesting that he says, Vayosef Yeshid Yado Alenecha.
Yes.
Because the beginnings of their time in Egypt were not necessarily harsh. While Yosef was there,
Right.
they were not. So, Yado Alenecha means that you were blinded by your son basically could it be that your son made you believe that everything was going to be okay because he was so high up in the government that he could control the future, whereas in the future when he was not going to be around, things were going to go downhill and you were going to become.
Right. So.
Yeah, I'm just saying that just those 4 words seem to very telling.
There's definitely a lot there. There's something there. Definitely, it reveals us to something. And it's true that the whole time that Yosef was in power, right? But then it says Sefer Shemot starts. Asher lo yada et Yosef, a king who didn't know Yosef. Either it was a new king, the same king who basically made it believe that he forgot about what happened, whatever. There's different interpretations about it. But the fact is, and this, by the way, teaches something about, as we said before, Sefer Bereshit Maaseh Avot Siman Labanim. Everything that is written in Sefer Bereshit is something that is going to, through history, we will experience, and we did experience that. We'll talk about it in a minute. Yes, ma'am.
Well, there's also, I don't know if you're descending to Egypt, professional stuff, which is a great nation there. So Hashem is going to be with you when you're descending to Egypt.
Yes.
So as we go down and we're in Egypt, I shall also surely bring you up. So I will bring you back to the level that you were at before you went to Egypt.
Yes.
When we're not in the Holy Land, we're not really as we're supposed to be.
Right. We're not at the level that we're supposed to be, not as connected as we're supposed to be to God. Yes, definitely. Definitely. There's something there. You're right.
So, online of what you were saying, like everything that happened in Bereshit is because it's going to happen in our times,
Yes.
in our life.
Yes.
So that's why I'm asking again, is it going to be at any moment that all the Jews will abandon Eretz Israel?
Is there?
Once, it could happen again.
For sure. Well, I'm not sure if through history there was another time that there were no Jews in Eretz Israel. I don't know.
Could it be even in the future?
There wasn't time like
Like,
that.
do you know anything?
No.
There were like
No,
minimum of 500 Jews anytime.
Anytime. Okay, there was 5. But I think an important point to remember from this is that through history, Jews, wherever they were times that they were Israel in a sense. Very comfortable. Let's take Spain. And, before the Inquisition and 1492, there were people, there were rabbis, there were people, there were really, for example, the Abarbanel was the advisor of the king, a great rabbi was the advisor of the king. And through different places, different countries, there were times that the name Israel was in power. However, as the Kadosh Baruch Hu reminds Yaakov Avinu, he tells him, Yaakov, Yaakov, don't think that it's going to be always Israel. Don't forget that you're going down to Mitzrayim, which is Galut, the exile. So wherever Jews found themselves, there were times that even though they were extremely comfortable, after X amount of years, they were reminded, you are Yaakov. Yaakov means challenge, war, tribulation, pogroms, and so on and so forth. And I think, and some people, by the way, don't like when I say it, but I have to say it. The fact is, wherever we are, we can't feel 100% comfortable. Why? Because who knows what's going to happen. The Malbim, a great rabbi in Europe, criticized his community. And he wrote it in his book, in the Malbim, where he says that in his time, the Jews were extremely wealthy, extremely comfortable. And he told them, don't get too comfortable, because you don't know for how long you're going to have this comfort. And he was right. And he was criticized that what do you just tell us what you. But the fact is, there's still anti-Semitism. There's still people, Jews who are persecuted in certain countries, in certain places. And even though we can say that we live in Vancouver, and Canada is extremely friendly to Israel, and Vancouver is a beautiful place, and we don't feel anti-Semitism and so on and so forth. The fact is, I think it's important for us to remind ourselves that we are Yaakov. We are still Yaakov. We are still in exile. It could be the most beautiful exile that you're going to have, with waking up and seeing the beautiful mountains, the whisper in front of you. That's great. But you're still Yaakov. Wherever you are. And even though you have a son who is Yosef and his vice versa and so on and so forth, there's going to be a time. Sefer Shemot starts, Shalo Yadayit Yosef. Everything that Yosef, by the way, Yosef did so much. He contributed so much for Mitzrayim. He's the one who gave advice to Paro how to, because the famine came to Mitzrayim eventually. And the one who took care of the people there was who? Was not Paro, was Yosef. He contributed so much to society, and still, there is a time that the Jewish people are enslaved in the same land that their forefather, Yosef, contributed so much. And people tell me, Jews from Muslim countries, that they live comfortably with their Muslim neighbors. But unfortunately came a time, right? Morocco as well, right, for sure. Right? After the 1948 especially. And that was the end. Where one day they were smiling to each other and buying and doing business and so on and so forth, and the next day, Asher lo yada'et Yosef. They don't recognize, that's it.
It was all the Arab countries.
Right? All the Arab countries. So this is, by the way, it's written in the Torah. It's not something that is new to us. We experience that. And this is part of our history. This is something that should remind us that we are Jews. It's not something that I think we should be worried about, but rather, we have to realize this is the reality. This is what a Jew is all about. This is part of, in a sense, you could say that it's part of our genes. Whether we like it or we don't like it doesn't make any difference. But this is who we are, and therefore, as we are about to finish Sefer Bereshit, we have Parashat Vayigash next week, and then we start the book of Shemot. In a sense, it's coming in the end of Parashat of the book of Bereshit to remind us that at all times, until Aharit Hayamim, till the end of the days, we're going to experience what Yaakov experienced, being Israel on the one hand, but being Yaakov on the other hand. And in a sense, I would say that unfortunately, through all these terrible experiences that we had, we learned how to survive. This is the key of our survival. Where other nations who didn't have that couldn't survive, the key of the Jewish people of survival is the fact that, unfortunately, they were persecuted, and tragedies and challenges and wars and so on, and so forth. And we see it. I mean, we have live examples of people who went through the Shoah, through the Holocaust. And unfortunately for some of them, of course, I mean, who are we to judge? It was a terrible experience, that they still think about it, and they're really bitter about it. And others learned something else, and it taught them something, and they are positive. But it depends on, it's a choice that the person had. But the fact is, I think, generally speaking, I think it's important for us to realize and to be reminded, and to remind ourselves, to remind each other. You have Israel, but you have Yaakov as well. And we have to have, I guess, a certain balance, right, in our lives, in where we live. Yes, we could be Israel at a certain time, but at the same time, we shouldn't forget that there is Yaakov also, and we have to, I guess, balance both names in our lives. Yes?
Do we know what is used more in the Torah? Yaakov or Israel?
That is a very good question. I am not sure. We could find out. But depending on the context, as we see in the Torah, and later on even in the Nevi'im, in the prophets, we find Yaakov and Israel as well. Depending on the context. I don't know what's used more. I'm not sure what's used more. And in a sense, by the way, this connects us to Hanukkah. We're celebrating Hanukkah, the idea of again, what the Syrian Greeks wanted to do to the Jewish people was, Hanukkah is spiritual, contrary to Purim, which is more physical. Haman wanted to he wanted to basically, in a physical sense, take all the Jews and erase their name, where on Hanukkah it was more spiritual. No one really wanted to kill the Jewish people. They wanted to kill our neshamot, our spirit. But the fact is, even through that, through this experience, it made us into stronger people, stronger nation. Because Matityahu was the one who stood up and says, Mil Hashem Elai. Who wants to serve Hashem should come to me. So the idea is that Al Tira Israel, on a positive note, we have to remember that even though at times we are Yaakov and we are going through all these challenges and whatever, I mean, we open the news every day, and some people tell me that they don't want to open the news anymore because what are they going to find there? But the fact is we have to be connected and see what's going on from time to time. But we have to remember that HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised Yaakov, he tells them, Al Tira, don't be fearful. Even at the time that you will be Yaakov, and you'll have a hard time, I'm going to be with you in exile, in Mitzrayim, Ve'anochi a'alcha gam alo, and I'm going to bring you back into Eretz Israel. So we have to keep that in mind, the idea of tikva, the idea of hope. We have to be hopeful. That even though we are going through these challenging times, and there are threats out there, whether it is Iran or other nations. As we say, we say it's clear that in every generation there are nations who want to exterminate the Jewish people, but the fact is that God is there to protect us and to save us, as he told Yaakov Avinu, this is the beginning of an era where we were going to go through exile, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be there. As the Kabbalah, by the way, also explains and says that when Israel is begaluta, when Israel, the Jewish people, the Jewish nation, is in exile, Shechinta begaluta, the divine presence is in exile as well. So it's a comforting idea to know that wherever we are, in the darkest place, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with us, and this is why, again, coming back to Hanukkah, and we'll finish with that. We always celebrate Hanukkah in the darkest days of the year, and it's not a coincidence. The fact is, even though you have these dark moments, these darkest days of the year, you have an or, you have the light of the Hanukkah, the light of the Torah, the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Shekhinah. And we have to keep that in mind. It's dark outside, but we have a light inside, the light of the Kedusha, the holy light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is going to continue on and protect us, as Ezrat Hashem, till the end of the days, and hopefully, speedily in our days, we'll be able to say Mashiach is here, and all together we'll celebrate with the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Yerushalayim.
Amen. I was learning this week about Hallel.
Laila Tov. Okay, take care. Have a good night. Bye. You're welcome. Bye. Yeah.
In addition to the Ilan, why do we say Hallel, full Hallel during these days, and why in Pesach it's only half Hallel 2 days?
Right.
The Rabbi says because all the miracles happen in Eretz Israel, and Pesach happen outside.
Outside. So that's why that's right. It's full.
Yeah.
Full Hallel.
Full Hallel.
Beautiful. Yeah.
מה אומרים הרבנים על כל ה-UFOs? יש הרבה, there's lots of UFO activities and relations of it.
Tri li 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 li